Hello artists, so today I'm going to show you the techniques for scratch art that we are going to do on our abstract animals. So the first technique is long hatching. So with hatching, remember it's just long lines and you can make them very uniform, going exactly evenly, or the closer together you make them, the darker it does appear. Now we'll be using these little wood skewers to do our hatch lines. So long hatch lines do make this kind of effect, while you can also do short hatch lines. So depending on the animal and the texture of that animal's fur or scales, you will be creating a certain kind of hatch mark. So notice that for the short hatching, I'm kind of alternating the lines back and forth. A lot of scratch art techniques relate back to our pen and ink techniques with value. So you might remember a lot of these from whenever we did pen and ink. Now we're gonna do feathering. So feathering is where you kind of really lift off the paper at the end, so that way it has that nice point for fur, for grass. So this can work really well for something that's very, very fluffy. Notice you're gonna have a lot of these little bits showing up, so you just gotta blow those away. Then of course you have your cross hatching. So for cross hatching, you can do them at an angle. So I like doing diagonal lines and then doing straight lines over top. Remember, the closer you make them, more of the color will show up beneath it. And then the further away, less color shows up, and it actually gives it a range of value. With stippling, you can make really distinct circles with stippling, or you can do really, really small hatch marks. Don't do that. That's not going to give you anything. So you have to actually be very controlled with your little hatch marks or your distinct circles that you're drawing. Remember, the closer that you make them, the darker it's going to appear. And this is actually scratching off fairly easy, so it'll work the same on your project of your abstract animal. And I'm just making all these really small little tadpoles for my stippling. You can also do big circles, then make them smaller, so that can give you a range of value as well. Scumbling, you guys know that that is a controlled scribble. So you would want to do lots of looping lines. The more condensed you make your lines, the lighter it'll appear. And then the further apart you make your lines, the darker it'll appear because of the ink that's shown up. Now you can also vary the pressure when you go to do your lines. So you can do a very light hand, or you can push really hard, and that'll get more of the paint to scratch off. Now the next part down here, you are going to be creating textured patterns. So you can see a blank line that's above each of these. You will want to label that line so that way I can identify what kind of pattern you are trying to mimic. So let's say that you're making some kind of reptile or a fish, and they have scales. So you might actually be drawing these scalloped shapes and repeating them over top of each other to mimic the idea of scales. Now let's say you want to add a little bit of value into the scales. Remember how I said you can do a very light pressure, and you can even do some very light hatching. But notice I'm still leaving the black. I'm not scratching all of it away, because that's the part that's going to create contrast on your abstract animal. Let me try to do leaves. So I'm going to actually draw a leaf. You can have the line in the center, and then you can have the little veins that come out. Maybe I want to do the texture of bark. So bark on a tree has these waving lines, and you might even shade a little bit for the knot in the tree. but this will give you the illusion of bark. Now I used a very uniform pressure, but you can even come back over top and give yourself a lighter pressure to even give more depth to your scratch art texture. Now let's say if I want to do water, because some of you guys do have a lot of water in your scenes, I'm going to make these little waving lines, and then I can even add some that overlap them, or I can make water that's, you know, kind of waving this way. Doesn't have to be completely uniform. Maybe you want some of the actual blue of the water to show through, so you can actually scratch that right away. So this will be able to give you a lot of texture and also show the movement of the water. Another kind of texture that you all may need would include animals that have long fur, so you would use the long feathering technique. If your animal has short fur, you might use the short hatching technique. Let's say that you want to create other patterns. So you're going to be creating your choice of patterns based on your specific project. So we have scales, we have leaves, we have bark, and we have water. Now these last four, I want you to come up with your own kind of pattern, and I'm going to create my own here as well. A swirling pattern. I have a pattern of braided hair. I have a pattern of rope. And then I have a pattern of brick. So you're going to be creating your choice of patterns based on your specific project.